When I opened the front door that night, I thought I had been robbed, until I saw the note. My house was stripped bare. No sofa, no fridge, not even a single fork left behind. The floorboards bore marks where my furniture had once stood, like faded memories of my life. And there, taped to the wall, in my brother's handwriting, were the words, "We need it more than you do. Thanks." I stood frozen, holding the note, my heart racing, though my face remained calm. 3 days later, he called, tears in his voice, begging me to stop what I had already set in motion. I'm Elena Ward, 41 years old, and for most of my life, I believed hard work could hold a family together. I live in Denver, in a small 2-story home with white shutters and a lemon tree out front. My weekdays used to run like clockwork. Spreadsheets, coffee breaks, traffic on I-25, and dinner for one. People called me steady, the one who always had it figured out. Perhaps that's why, after our parents died, everyone assumed I'd take care of my younger brother, Ethan. I was 24 then, struggling to pay my own bills. But I signed the papers and became his guardian, vowing he'd never feel like an orphan. For the next decade, I worked through weekends, took night shifts, skipped vacations, and poured every spare dollar into his future. I paid his tuition, bought him his first car, even covered his wedding when he married Sophie. I remember standing at the back of the church, exhausted but proud, watching them dance under fairy lights I'd paid for. It felt like every sacrifice had been worth it. But after the wedding, Sophie started showing up at my house, always smiling, always asking, "Can I borrow this for a few days?" First, it was a purse, then shoes, then a jacket I had saved months to buy. She never returned anything. When I asked about it, she'd laugh and say, "You're doing so well, Elena. You won't even miss it." Ethan would just nod and avoid my gaze. I told myself not to make a big deal of it. Family doesn't keep score. But over time, I began to feel like a storage unit instead of a sister. Every visit left me emptier, as though Sophie was taking more than just my things. One afternoon, she ran her hand along the armrest of my sofa and casually asked, "You'll replace this soon, right?" I smiled, but something cold flickered inside me. I didn't know it then, but that moment, the feel of her fingertips on my couch, marked the beginning of the end. It started with small things missing, clothes, borrowed dishes, but by spring, the tension grew undeniable. Sophie stopped pretending to ask. She'd stroll through my house like it was a store, touching frames, testing cushions, and commenting, "You always buy the nicest stuff." I tried to laugh it off, but each visit left me uneasy. Ethan rarely came alone anymore. When he did, he complained about how expensive everything was and how some people had it easier. I didn't like the way he said it. I didn't like realizing he meant me. One Saturday, Sophie came by while I was cooking. She leaned on the counter, eyeing my new navy jacket hanging on a chair. "Can I borrow that for dinner tonight?" she asked. "You still have my grey one, right?" I replied. "I haven't seen it in months." She rolled her eyes. "It's probably in my closet somewhere." "Relax." I looked at her. Really looked. Her manicured hand resting on my countertop. The smirk playing on her lips. Something inside me snapped. "No, Sophie, you can't borrow this one." The silence that followed was sharp. Ethan walked in, holding a grocery bag, and froze. "What's going on?" he asked. Sophie crossed her arms. "Your sister thinks I'm a thief." I opened my mouth but closed it again. "I just want my things back," I said quietly. Ethan sighed. "Come on, Lena, don't make this awkward. It's just clothes." That word, just, hung between us like a slap. After they left, I sat on the couch, staring at the jacket I had refused to lend. For the first time, my own home didn't feel like mine. Weeks passed, and they stopped visiting. I thought maybe that was a good thing. A month later, I had finally saved enough to renovate my house. New floors, New furniture, new appliances. I was proud. Every piece was chosen by me, paid for in full. The delivery guys laughed when they saw how spotless the place was. "You treat this house like a museum," one said. I smiled, because it's all I have. When the work was finished, I called Ethan. "I just upgraded everything. Do you and Sophie want my old set? It's still in good shape." I heard muffled voices in the background. Sophie saying something under her breath. Ethan cleared his throat. Sophie said, "We don't need your junk." I forced a laugh. "Okay, no problem." But after hanging up, I sat in silence for what felt like hours. That word again, junk. My hard work, my care, my history, dismissed like trash. I tried to brush it off, telling myself, family says things they don't mean. The next morning, I left for work like I always did. I remember locking the door twice, feeling the click under my fingers. Little did I know, that would be the last time that lock felt like safety. The first thing I noticed when I got home was the silence. My neighborhood, usually alive with barking dogs and sprinklers hissing, was eerily still. I fumbled with my keys, humming to myself, thinking about dinner when I saw it, the front door. The lock was crooked, bent, like someone had pried it open. Inside, the air felt wrong, emptier somehow. My living room looked like a memory erased. The new couch, the rug, the TV, the lamps, gone. My kitchen stripped bare. Even the silverware drawer was empty. Forks and knives replaced by dust. I walked through each room slowly, refusing to believe what I was seeing. Each step I took echoed too loudly, the creak of hinges almost mocking me. On the wall, a small note flapped in the breeze from the open window. It was taped above a clean rectangle of paint, where a picture frame used to hang. I recognized the handwriting instantly. "We need it more than you do. Thanks," it read. Signed, Ethan. I stared at the words until they blurred. It wasn't the theft that broke me. It was the entitlement behind it. The assumption that I would just understand, forgive, and keep paying. My knees felt weak, but I didn't fall. I folded the note, slid it into my purse, and took a slow breath. Mrs. Green, my elderly neighbor, appeared on the porch. "Elena, honey, are you all right?" she asked, her voice trembling. I told her everything was fine, but my throat was tight. She shook her head. "I saw a moving truck here this afternoon. I thought you were donating furniture." I closed my eyes. "Did you see who it was?" She whispered. "Your brother," she said. "He said you told him to take whatever he needed. I'm so sorry." Mrs. Green went home and returned with a flash drive. My security camera caught it all. I held that tiny drive like it was gold. Proof. Finally proof. That night I didn't sleep. I took photos of everything. The broken lock, the empty rooms, the scratches on the floor where the fridge had been dragged out. I lined up receipts, warranty papers, bank statements. I created a folder titled Evidence. My hands shook, but not from fear. Focus steadied me. The next morning, I sat across from my lawyer, Mr. Adler. He listened quietly as I told him everything. When I slid the note across his desk, he picked it up with 2 fingers, raised an eyebrow and said, "Well, that's bold." I nodded. "They have 3 days to return it." "All right," he said, a slight smile crossing his face. 3 days exactly, then we move forward. Back home, I opened my banking app and scrolled to the automatic transfer labeled mortgage support. Ethan, $1,000 every month for over a year. My thumb hovered over the screen, then pressed cancel. A small notification appeared. Transfer stopped. I sat there, staring at the screen, breathing steady. For 17 years, I had taken care of my brother. That night, for the first time, I took care of myself. Before bed, I slipped the folded note into a drawer. I wasn't going to destroy it, not yet. I wanted to remember exactly how it felt to stand in my own home and read my brother's handwriting, telling me I didn't deserve what was mine. He had 3 days, that's all. Day 1 passed without a call. I watched the clock strike midnight and realized Ethan had made his choice. Day 2, I sent him a short message. You have until tomorrow. No reply. By the morning of the third day, I stopped hoping for one. I printed every receipt, labeled every photo, and placed the flash drive from Mrs. Green on top. The evidence looked small but heavy, like the truth itself. At exactly 9 a.m., I called Mr. Adler. They've ignored the deadline, I said. Then we file the report, he replied. By noon, 2 police officers stood on my porch, taking notes as I walked them through the empty rooms. They photographed the note, bagged it as evidence, and nodded. We'll pay them a visit, one of the officers said. An hour later, I sat in my car, parked down the street from Ethan's house, my hands gripping the steering wheel. A police SUV pulled into their driveway. From where I sat, I could see it all unfold. Sophie appeared at the door, her hair messy, clutching a robe. Ethan stood behind her, pale, arguing with the officers. One of them held up the note, sealed in plastic. Sophie's expression shifted instantly from anger to panic. She covered her mouth and disappeared inside. The other officer gestured toward the moving truck, still parked beside their house. He opened it. My furniture was inside, every piece, even the damn forks. For a second, I almost laughed. They hadn't even tried to hide it. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I let it ring twice before answering. What did you do? He shouted. I did exactly what I said I would, I replied. They're taking us in. You're ruining our lives. You had 3 days, I said quietly. You ruined your own. Behind his voice, I could hear Sophie crying, telling him to fix it, to beg me. He didn't. He hung up. Later that afternoon, Mr. Adler called. They're being detained for questioning. The police found everything. Excellent work documenting, Elena. Excellent work. I repeated those words softly, as if testing them. For once, they didn't mean sacrifice. They meant victory. The trial was set for 2 weeks later. I didn't want to see Ethan again, but part of me needed to. I needed him to witness what it looked like when someone refused to be walked over anymore. The courtroom smelled of varnish and cold coffee. Sophie sat at the defense table, her hands twisting in her lap. Ethan looked thinner, his eyes darting around like a trapped animal. When the judge entered, everyone stood. My pulse stayed steady. Mr. Adler opened his folder, placed the flash drive on the desk, and said, Your Honor, Exhibit A. The screen flickered to life. The footage showed Ethan and Sophie holding my refrigerator, my dining table, my life, laughing as they did it. The courtroom went silent, except for the sound of the truck door slamming shut. Then came the note. The judge read it aloud. We need it more than you do. Thanks. He looked up, unimpressed. Charming, he muttered. Ethan lowered his head. Sophie's face crumpled. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't raise my voice. I raised him after our parents died. I paid for his education, his wedding, his house, and he still decided that what was mine should be his. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because no one, not even family, gets to take from me again. The judge's gavel struck once, sharp as a gunshot. Guilty, probation for 1 year, restitution in full, and a fine of $1,500 each. All property to be returned immediately. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Ethan caught up to me. His voice cracked. Lena, please, we can fix this. I turned to him. You had 17 years of me fixing things for you. You're on your own now. Sophie wiped her eyes. We're sorry. We made a mistake. I nodded. Yes, you did, and now you get to live with it. I walked away before either of them could speak again. The next morning, I met with Mr. Adler again. I need to update my will, I said. He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. When the paperwork was ready, I signed it. Everything I owned, the house, the savings, the retirement fund, would go to a scholarship foundation for orphans, children who actually needed it more than Ethan ever did. 2 days later, Adler sent the legal notice to Ethan. It didn't take long. That evening, someone started pounding on my front door. I looked through the peephole. Ethan and Sophie. "You changed your will," Ethan yelled. "You're serious?" "Completely," I said through the chain lock. "I'm your only family. You stopped being family the day you broke into my house." Sophie stepped forward, her eyes red. "We're having a baby, Lena. Don't you care about your niece or nephew?" I hesitated for half a second, then said, "I hope you raised them better than you were raised." Ethan's hand hit the door. "You owe me." I laughed, bitter and soft. "I owe you nothing. I raised you, fed you, gave you everything you ever wanted, and you thanked me by robbing me blind." "We said we're sorry," Sophie cried. "No," I said, my voice steady. "You're sorry you got caught." They stood there, speechless. I closed the door, turned the deadbolt, and for the first time in my life, didn't look back. That night, I sat in my living room. The furniture was back, everything in its place. It looked exactly as before, but it felt different, stronger, mine. I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and booked a 2-week trip to Hawaii. The confirmation email popped up almost instantly. "Congratulations, your vacation is confirmed." For years, I had built my life around taking care of someone else. Now, for the first time, I was taking care of me. As I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. "Please just talk to me." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it without reading the rest. 3 days after the court ruling, my phone rang again. I almost didn't answer until I saw Ethan's name. His voice broke the moment I said hello. "Please, Lena, we're sorry. We lost everything. I'll bring it all back. Just drop the charges." Behind him, Sophie was crying, begging into the receiver. "We can't pay the fines. We'll lose the house. Please." For a moment, I said nothing. I looked around at my living room, my couch, my photos, my peace, and felt something settle inside me. "You already brought everything back," I said quietly. "What's gone now isn't mine to fix." He kept talking, promising to do better, to start over. I let him. When he ran out of words, I said only, "You made your choices." "So did I." Then I hung up. That night, I slept with the windows open for the first time since the break-in. The air smelled like rain and lemon blossoms from the tree outside. No footsteps, no fear, just quiet. The next week, I installed a full security system. Cameras, motion sensors, alarms. It wasn't about paranoia. It was about claiming safety as something I'd earned. When the technician asked if I wanted remote alerts to my phone, I smiled. "No need. I'm finally home." I started saying yes to things I used to put off. Melissa, my closest friend, convinced me to try a pottery class downtown. I found myself laughing, covered in clay, feeling younger than I had in years. One evening after class, she said, "You seem lighter." I nodded because I stopped carrying people who wanted to drag me down. Each day felt like a quiet reclaiming. I cooked dinner with music on again. I bought fresh flowers for the kitchen table Ethan once called too expensive. I even caught myself humming while I cleaned. It wasn't happiness exactly. It was something steadier. Peace. One morning, I opened my calendar and circled the date of my Hawaii trip. 2 weeks away. The ocean, the silence, the space to breathe. It felt like more than a vacation. It felt like a rebirth. The phone rang again that afternoon. I didn't answer this time. I let it buzz until it stopped. When the silence returned, it felt sacred. Hawaii was everything I'd hoped it would be. Warm air, blue water, no voices I recognized. I spent mornings walking the beach, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching the sun pull itself over the horizon. No alarms, no guilt, just the sound of waves and my own heartbeat finally slowing down. One evening, I sat on the balcony of my hotel. the sky painted gold, and thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd gained. They had taken every object that could be carried out of my house, but not my strength, not my peace. That was something they could never steal. For the first time, I wasn't someone's caretaker, provider, or safety net. I was just me, Elena, whole. As I packed to go home, I looked at the folded note I'd kept in my suitcase. I smiled, then dropped it into the hotel trash can. The sound it made was small, but final. Have you ever had to walk away to find peace?